everybody, and good evening if you're watching the premiere of this video on Facebook or YouTube tonight. I'm so glad you're here. I am so grateful for you that you tune in every single week. I'm so thankful. I am so grateful to the partners of this ministry. I think about you often. I pray for you daily. We just couldn't do this without you. And listen, the world may look dark outside, but that doesn't mean that there has to be darkness in our mind. If we filter the things that are happening in the world through the Word of God, then we actually have a message of hope, not just to ourselves, but to the world. Our security is not found in the stock market. Our security is not found in job security. It's found in eternal security. It's found in Jesus Christ. So we have quite the show planned for you today. So buckle up. It's going to get pretty crazy, but there really is a message of hope within this. So something cool that is happening right now, and I'll kind of break it down to a few different things that we're going to be discussing on today's program. One, is Trump going to use the coronavirus crisis to take over the Federal Reserve? That is, if you don't understand how big of a statement that was, we're going to be breaking it down in just a few minutes. Did the stimulus package just make Donald Trump the Federal Reserve chairman? No, it didn't, but it's getting pretty close, and I'll once again explain that to you. We're also going to be discussing some ridiculous things found within the stimulus package, but how there is truly a silver lining around it. Before I get into it, there's one more thing. Just want to remind you, I said last week that donations were hardcore down for about 10 days, and that is true. I want to thank a couple of people that really stepped up to the plate last week. I praise God for you. You lift my spirits whenever I see that you want to stand with us. So if you want to stand with us this week, super easy. Go to zachdrewshow.com, click the donate button. You can either do it through the Christian online payment service called Tithely or PayPal, or write us at IGBY PO Box 797, Decatur, Illinois 62525. We don't do product. We don't do ads. The only way we do what we do here is through faithful donations. And I'm looking at Andrew Bellers over here. We're trying to operate. He's not been on the show the last couple of weeks because we are trying to observe the 6-foot rule. So he's over here way out of the camera. Looking at him, not sure if I'm going to share it right now, but I'll just say that some really great, I'm going to kind of break it open a little bit. Some really cool things are happening. So Pastor Jim Baker, who I worked with, he's been a mentor of mine since I was probably, 18. And this part is public knowledge, but he just bought a network. He literally bought a satellite, which is just, it's crazy. Awesome. Crazy awesome. Like a satellite, he's going to have his own network. Not just on Roku and Apple TV, but on Dish Network throughout the entire country. Millions and millions and millions of people have Dish Network. He actually bought the old Angel Network, which is radical. And so we're going to have some possibilities to literally go onto Dish Network this year, this show. We're not ready for that. Right now, we have a great setup. We have one singular camera for a really great online Roku, Apple TV, social media show. To go on Dish Network, and then after that to go on to DirecTV, that's where we believe we're going. We've got to invest into equipment. So listen, if you just want to, and I haven't thought about this, like even asking for this or anything, but if you want to be a part of that, we've been looking at a camera equipment, a space. We would literally move this show to, this is really professional, my garage. right? So I actually have a really large garage, and we would rig it into a studio, and the set would literally become at least twice the size it is right now. It could be truly like a late night talk show look, not feel, but look, with the desk and a couple of chairs going this way, and Andrew could be over here, and we could have more than one camera. And it doesn't take $500,000 anymore. We could do everything we need to do, and I'm ballparking it, but I believe we'd be able to do everything we do, which would include heating and cooling the garage, because you have to have that for TV, the 2 new cameras, the new equipment, the new part of the set, everything for less than about $6,000. And that would make it so that we would be able to go to that next level, to be on Dish Network. So I'm excited. The world is falling apart, but God's people don't have to. We get to be excited in all seasons, in all circumstances. No matter how the world is changing, there is someone that never changes. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that is Jesus Christ. I filter the world through that. Everything is changing, but nothing has to change in my heart. Nothing has to change in my mind, because the rock in whom I cling to doesn't move. That's a message of hope for you right now. Listen, stand with us. Awesome things are happening. Become a monthly partner. Let's get into the show. Wasn't planning on going there, but I just went there. If it's on my head, it just kind of comes out. The Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is evil. Okay? Most do not argue that fact. If you've even done a little bit of digging into it. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not dig into anything. I would say the major misconception that most people have concerning the Federal Reserve Bank is that it's a branch of the U.S. government. It is not. It is not the federal. It is not federal. It is not the Federal Reserve Bank. It is a private company. Most people believe that it's American as the Constitution. The fact is, the Constitution forbids that the Federal Reserve even exists. President Donald Trump could literally nationalize the Federal Reserve in 10 seconds based off of our Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution states that Congress shall have the power to create money and regulate the value thereof, not a bunch of international bankers. Today, the Fed, so whenever we say Fed, that means Federal Reserve, which is not federal. It is controlled by international bankers. It is very, very, very evil, okay? It is what runs this world, and I'm going to explain that. Today, the Fed controls and profits by printing what? Worthless money. Money that has no intrinsic value. Through the Treasury, regulating its value. And the biggest outrage of all is that they collect interest on the national debt. The Fed began with approximately 300 people or banks that became owners, stockholders, purchasing stock at about $100 per share. The stock is not publicly traded in the Federal Reserve banking system. They make up an international banking cartel of wealth that cannot be compared to anything else. The Fed banking system collects billions of dollars in interest annually and distributes it to who? They distribute it to its shareholders, basically. That's how it's going to work. That's how it does work. The Fed creates money from nothing. Okay? Hear what I just said. The Fed creates money from nothing. And then that they loan it back to us. So they create money from nothing, a private company, if you will, made up of international bankers, create money, and then they loan it back to us through banks and charge us interest so that they, not our government, this isn't This isn't the government doesn't get this. They get the money. The Federal Reserve, also buys government debt with money they print. So they print fake money, and then they buy national debt, and then they charge interest on it, even though they created the fake money. And that is what we get to pay for. That's taxpayers' interest. It's so difficult to even work through because it's such an insane thing. And it was never supposed to be like this. Congress is supposed to have full control over the money situation of America. I'm trying to break it down and make it as simple as possible. Nationalizing the Federal Reserve, if we could do that, and a major step just took place that I believe we got one step closer to that. Nationalizing the Federal Reserve takes the American people out from under their tyrannical, unaccountable control that they've maintained since they were created in 1913. They have held the American people hostage since 1913. And a major change just took place. And it was actually thanks to the stimulus package. So we're going to get back to that, what I just said, and break that down for you in just a little bit. But first, I want to kind of go over a closer look of the stimulus package. I'm going to be showing you, I want to talk about it because no one else is talking about it. There is a girl, you may know, her name is Caitlin Bennett. She's awesome. She has her own show on social media platforms. And I was watching her recently, and she started to really dig into the stimulus package and how she really believed it was bad for America. And she showed me some things that I was shocked. I couldn't believe. And I knew that, there was some really funky stuff that they tried to stick into the stimulus package, and then I thought we got most of it out. No, we didn't. There is some very shady things that passed because of this stimulus package. So I'm going to be going over some of those very shady things, but then I'm going to be showing you how there's a silver lining through it all. This is here's some facts of the stimulus package. I think you're going to be shocked. First off, you may know this. This is the most expensive spending bill in U.S. history. But did you know that 91% of the money of this $2 trillion stimulus package, 91% of the money will go to special interests instead of the hardworking American like you? Not every American will receive relief, even though the entire country is affected by this crisis. The law would provide $1,200 payments to adults with annual income of $75,000 plus another $500 per child. Some Americans earning more than $75,000 would also receive money if they meet certain qualifications. That means hardworking Americans who pay tens of thousands of dollars a year in taxes won't see a penny from this. Here's something interesting. If all 327 million Americans, which this isn't happening, it's way lower than this actually. But if every single human being in the United States, 327 million people, all received, children and everything, a $1,200 check, that would equate to $392 billion. That doesn't even account for 1/5 of the spending bill of the stimulus package. Now, that's not how much money is actually being delegated, because there are only 157 million Americans actually in the workforce. If they all qualified for the spending bill, which they don't all qualify, it only comes out to $188 billion to give them all a $1,200 check. That would account for only 9% of the spending bill. Even if you added $500 for all 75 million children in the United States, that only adds an additional $3 billion. That would still account for less than 10% of this stimulus package. 91% of the money is going to special interest groups. So Let's talk about some of those 91%, and you're just going to kind of scratch your head as I did as I found out some of this information. 7.5 million is going to go to the Smithsonian Institute. 25 million is going to go to the JFK Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. What? $75 million will go to the National Endowment for the Arts. $75 million will go to National Endowment for the Humanities. $75 million will go to Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That includes NPR, which is refusing to air Trump's press briefings due to, quote, a pattern of false or misleading information provided that cannot be fact-checked in real time. $50 million is going to go to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. $350 million will go to Migration and Refugee Assistance. $453 million will go to the operation of Indian programs. $300 million will go to the Native American programs. $100 million will be available for grants to Indian tribes. Are we scratching our heads here? $69 million will be given to the operation of Indian education programs, $5 million to the Office of Public and Indian Housing, $1 billion will go to Indian health reservations, and $1.2 billion will go to tenant-based rental assistance for public and Indian housing. That's over $3 billion that will go to Native Americans in this country. So $3 billion. Now, there are only about 1 million Native Americans that live on reservations in this country. That means that the Native Americans are receiving $3,000 per person, while everyone else is receiving $1,200 if they qualify. It leaves your head scratching, right? What's going on? Let's look at some of the wasteful government departments this bill is going towards. So we'll just read one more because we're running out of time. Maybe just one or two more. The House of Representatives voted to give themselves, in the stimulus bill, a $25 million raise. That would equate to $57,000 per U.S. representative. All while, don't forget that the Trump family will not profit from this $2 trillion stimulus package. But yet, the representatives that are writing this thing got a $25 million raise. All in all, Caitlin Bennett ends with this. This disastrous bill adds up to $2 trillion. I understand why Trump signed this. He doesn't want to look like he's doing nothing during one of the worst crises in our nation's history. But I am shocked and appalled that he and the rest of the GOP would go along with the Democrats in passing this bill. And this is the point of the show where I want to try to connect this for you. So what does this have to do with President Trump now having more power over the evil Federal Reserve? How does the stimulus package make it easier for the federal government to invade the Federal Reserve? And here it is, bolded, underline it, asterisk on both sides of this thing. Hone in on this statement. The stimulus bill includes provision essentially merging the Fed and the Treasury into one organization. What was included in the stimulus package nationalized a large swath of the Federal Reserve. We just went one huge step into the right direction. I'm going to read some of this article for you. President, and a lot of this information is going to be coming from Bloomberg. Jim Bianco wrote this article for Bloomberg. President Trump could be pulling off a major move that has the potential to save America and its economy as the nation faces one of its most difficult periods in recent history. In the face of COVID-19 pandemic and all of the health, economic, and societal fears that come with it, President Trump might come out of this chaotic situation a hero. A Bloomberg opinion article written by Jim Bianco explains how, quote, the federal government is nationalizing large swaths of the financial markets. Quote, the Fed is providing the money to do it, the author states. This scheme, he deems a scheme, this scheme essentially merges the Fed and Treasury into one organization. So meet your new federal chairman, Donald J. Trump. How could this happen? Essentially, the Federal Reserve has created multiple new programs lately that serve very wide-ranging purposes. Bianco, in his article, lists the following programs and their intended functions. He then says the Fed isn't allowed to do any of this. The central bank is only allowed to purchase or lend against securities that have government guarantee. This includes Treasury securities, agency mortgage-backed securities, and the debt issued by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. An argument can be made that can also include municipal securities, but nothing in the laundry list above. So if the Fed isn't allowed to conduct the above-mentioned operations, how is any of this happening? Each acronym provided in the list will be connected to a special purposed vehicle, an SPV, financed by the Fed. So don't lose me right now because we're going to connect this. Next, the Treasury will make an equity investment in each SPV, meaning that they, not the Fed, purchase the securities and backstopping of loans, and the Fed is acting as a bank providing financing. In effect, he says, the Fed is giving the Treasury access to its printing press. This was because of the stimulus package. This is revolutionary because America's founding fathers granted the power to print coin, money, currency to Congress and Congress only. Article 1, Section 8 permits Congress to coin money and to regulate its value. And Section 10 denies states the right to coin their own value. So the Federal Reserve, according to our Constitution, is illegal. Therefore, the framers, our forefathers, clearly wanted the national monetary system to rest in the hands of America, not a private consortium of foreign banks, aka the Federal Reserve. This move appears to undo what former President Woodrow Wilson did, what he established in 1913, which was to surrender Congress's money regulating powers to the privately owned Federal Reserve. Has Trump just managed to take control of America's currency amid the greatest U.S. crisis since 9/11? This is incredible. You see, Donald Trump, he knows that his biggest enemy, the swamp, the evil cartel that call the shots, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the dark state, the people who stand in the way of nationalism, of a strong America, the ones who want a global order achieved through a destabilized America. All of these people, it cannot be summed up into just one singular group. But let me tell you right now that the deepest part of the swamp can be found in what we call that Federal Reserve. And why should that surprise us? Even on a spiritual level. If the scripture says that money is the root of all kinds of evil, and the New King James Version even says the roots of all evil. If the Word of God says that, doesn't it make sense that the ones in control of this fallen world's monetary money system would be evil? Trump is waging war against the globalists behind the scenes in many ways we don't even realize. And what gave him the right to do this behind the scenes, it's not even talked about, was through the stimulus package. Even though there was a lot of stuff in there that stands in stark contrast to what the GOP believes in. Did they allow it to go through to give them provision to merge the Fed with the Treasury Department, undoing what Woodrow Wilson has done since 1913? Donald Trump has been very vocal over the years about the Fed. Donald Trump attacks Federal Reserve, yelling during debate. Trump, the Federal Reserve is more political than Hillary Clinton. Trump hammered the Federal Reserve as a candidate. As president, he could quickly reshape it. Audit the Fed bill gets new push under Trump. Who's right about the economy, Trump or the Federal Reserve? Trump attacks the Fed's policies again, saying the U.S. economy does not have a tariff problem. Trump's attacks on the Fed are moving markets. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan, President Trump Fed bashing is ill-advised. This really is incredible. Trump is fighting for us behind the scenes, even whenever he's not getting credit for it. You know, you ought to go listen to Sean Hannity's radio program every once in a while. He goes through different examples pretty often, honestly, about how Trump is doing things in secret, how he is waging war against the globalists in ways that the 5 o'clock news just never talks about. He is way more strategic, very intelligent than many of us even realize. This whole thing went through, and in a sense, it just nationalized, like I said, large swaths of the Federal Reserve. I mean, which is the deepest part of the swamp you could ever imagine. So continue to pray for our president. The liberals are trying to hijack this crisis to destabilize America, and we have a president in the White House that is fighting for us behind the scenes, and he's fighting for the preservation of America. We've got to pray for our president. Listen, we are once again totally out of time for today's show. I didn't get to 1, 2, 3 pages of my content, but I can't. Our current video cameras actually only record for a certain amount of time. So once again, there's another plug that if you want to get behind this new project of moving the studio to a place that has twice the square footage, a bigger set, more cameras, that would make us bring us that next level, so that we would be able to present our show even on places like Dish Network throughout the entire country. Get behind us, stand with us. We love you guys. I'm so appreciative of you that you watch every week, that you're standing with us. My heart could just explode for my appreciation for you. We'll see you next week. Hey, and get into your word. Get into your word. It's a daily thing. Just go to our website at zachdrewshow.com. Click that bright orange donate button now, and don't forget to click that automated payment method so we know we can count on you each month. You can also write us at IGBY, P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois 62525.